What happens when the world underestimates you? When doubt and laughter greet your every step? This is the story of Maya Brooks, a woman who faced ridicule on the mats but turned it all around in 15 seconds. Ready to witness strength that speaks louder than words? It started with the sound of the door chime, a low ding, and then silence. Heads turned. Conversations paused. The room, thick with sweat and the sound of bare feet padding across mats, fell into a curious hush. She stepped inside slowly, her eyes scanning the space, lined with grappling dummies, framed tournament medals, and men who didn't hide their confusion. Maya Brooks stood just inside the threshold, clutching her borrowed white belt in one hand and a neatly folded GI in the other. She wasn't flashy, no dramatic walk-in, no loud introduction, just steady steps and unwavering posture. But still, she stood out, not because she was out of shape, not because she was new, but because she didn't look like them. Maya was a black woman in her mid-30s, tall, composed, her natural curls tucked under a bandana. Her presence alone challenged every silent assumption in the room. One guy near the corner raised an eyebrow. Another nudged his friend and muttered, "She lost?" She heard it, but didn't flinch. Instead, she approached the front desk, where a young instructor barely looked up from his phone. "Trial class?" he asked flatly. She nodded. He gestured to the locker room. "You can get changed there. Warm-ups start in 5. Hope you stretched." As she walked past the rows of seated students, mostly male, mostly younger, some tried not to stare. Others didn't bother. Their looks said everything they didn't. What's she doing here? She doesn't look like she can hang. This is going to be funny. What none of them knew, what none of them even thought to consider, was the weight behind every step she took. They didn't know she had driven past this gym for weeks before building the courage to walk in. They didn't know about the combat training she'd endured years ago overseas, the early mornings in silence, the nights studying technique on her living room floor. They didn't know that the woman they saw as out of place was already a warrior. But Maya said nothing. She bowed as she stepped onto the mat, firm, deliberate. It wasn't just her first class, it was a statement. And the mats, just like the people watching, had no idea what was coming. The air smelled like sweat, rubber, and something else Maya couldn't quite place. Maybe ego. She tied the belt around her waist with practiced care, the thick cotton wrapping twice before she tugged it snug. White belt, symbol of beginning. To her, it was a clean slate. To them, it was a target. She stepped back onto the mat. Students were circling, warming up. Hip escapes, forward rolls, shoulder shrugs. Maya joined the line without hesitation. That's when the whispers started. "She won't last past warm-ups." Hope someone brought an ice pack for her pride. A group of blue and purple belts clustered near the wall, like high schoolers in designer GIs. One of them, lean with tattoos up his neck, glanced at Maya and snorted. "Why even show up dressed like that if you're not serious?" Maya didn't break stride, didn't blink. She flowed through the drills with machine precision. Her body remembered things most of them had never learned. Spatial awareness, core control, how to fall without fear. She moved like a soldier because once she was one. Still, it wasn't enough to earn her a second look. Not yet. The instructor barked out the next drill, partnered shrimping, and pointed vaguely at her. "Pair up with, you," he said, nodding toward a young white belt with nervous eyes. He looked at Maya like someone had handed him a live grenade. "You sure?" he asked. The instructor shrugged and walked off. They moved together through the drill, but the energy was off. He held back, like he was afraid of touching her, or maybe afraid she'd make him look bad. Maya said nothing. Let her movement speak for her. 10 minutes later, they switched partners. This time she got a blue belt, taller, stronger, cockier. He didn't hold back. His shrimp was aggressive, sloppy, but he grinned the whole time like it was a joke. When the drill ended, he leaned over and said just loud enough for nearby ears, "Not bad, for someone who just showed up to sweat a little before yoga." Maya looked him in the eye. "You roll like you're scared of gravity," she said flatly, then turned away before the grin on his face could falter. The room took notice. Stereotypes are easy to wear. But Maya? She came to rip them off, stitch by stitch, and she was just getting started. They called it rolling, but to Maya it felt more like a performance, one where she'd been cast as the clown before she ever touched the mat. After warm-ups came sparring. The instructor clapped his hands and barked, "Find a partner." The room erupted into motion, students pairing off fast, familiar clicks snapping together like puzzle pieces. Maya stood alone for a moment too long, the odd one out, until the instructor pointed at a young blue belt and said, "Go with her." His name was Cody, mid-20s, wiry, and too confident for someone who had barely earned his stripes. He sauntered over, chuckled, and said, "Try not to hurt me, ma'am." Maya gave a polite smile and bowed. The bell rang. What happened next wasn't about technique. It was a test. And Cody made that clear from the first grip. He didn't roll to learn. He rolled to dominate. He jerked her sleeve hard, dragging her forward into his guard. And before she could settle her balance, he flung a leg over her shoulder. Armbar attempt. Fast, sloppy, aggressive. She adjusted, calm, technical. But Cody wasn't interested in a clean submission. He cranked it anyway. Too fast, too far. The pain shot through her elbow like lightning. She tapped. He didn't release immediately, just a second too long. The kind of second that makes a message loud without words. "You don't belong here." When he finally let go, he grinned wide, sweat dripping from his chin. "That was quick," he said. "You sure this sport is for you?" Laughter rippled from the nearby group of regulars. The instructor didn't blink, didn't correct him, just called, "Next round." Maya stood, rolled her shoulder, nodded. "Good roll," she said softly. But inside, something else was waking up. It wasn't anger. Not exactly. It was focus. A laser point awareness that sharpened with humiliation. Maya wasn't a stranger to pain. She had felt it on training fields, in freezing deserts, in moments that had nothing to do with sport and everything to do with survival. This question mark. This was just a boy trying to make himself feel big. And that was the mistake. Because warriors don't get loud. They get ready. And Maya had just begun recalibrating. If they had stopped to ask her story, they might have understood. But they didn't ask. Not one person in that gym wondered where Maya came from. They saw a black woman in a beginner's gi and assumed the same tired story. Newbie, hobbyist, a little cardio before brunch. But Maya Brooks' story didn't start on a mat in a local gym. It started 12 years earlier, under a different kind of pressure. Afghanistan. Forward Operating Base, Shank. Maya wore a different uniform then. Army combat fatigues and steel in her spine. She was military police. High-value escort detail. Tactical response. Close quarters combat. She trained for years in environments where mistakes cost more than bruises. They cost lives. She learned to break down doors, disarm armed men twice her size, and keep calm in 120-degree heat with a convoy pinned under fire. She earned her stripes through sweat, grit, and silence. The kind of silence forged in respect. Because when she stepped into the room, people didn't laugh. They listened. But war leaves things behind. Scars that don't show up in x-rays. When she came home, the transition was jarring. The world moved softer, slower, but not gentler. The uniform was gone. The respect disappeared with it. People cut her off mid-sentence, assumed she was just a vet. Some even asked if she joined the army to pay for school. She tried therapy, yoga, running, but nothing quite matched the intensity, the focus, the purpose, until she found Jiu Jitsu. Here the ground didn't care who you were. It didn't care about race, gender, or your resume. It only responded to technique, pressure, timing. She started practicing alone, watching hours of footage on YouTube, studying fundamentals, repeating solo drills in her apartment until her knees were raw. But that wasn't enough. She needed the pressure of a real gym, so she researched the best school in town, circled the block 3 times before walking in. And now here she was, misjudged, laughed at, underestimated, again. But Maya had been underestimated before, by insurgents, by commanding officers, by boardroom executives who thought she looked too soft for leadership. And each time she'd prove them wrong, quietly, definitively. So let them laugh. Let them guess. Because what they didn't know was simple. Maya didn't come here to belong. She came here to conquer. The announcement came on a Thursday, slipped in between drills like it didn't matter. All right, y'all, coach said, clapping his hands. In-house tournament in 2 weeks. No weight classes, no points. Submission-only rounds. You tap or you lose. The room stirred. Chatter broke out. Some were hyped. Others pretended not to care. But everyone felt the tension shift. This wasn't just another practice. This was where reputations were built. Maya stood at the edge of the mat, towel draped over her shoulder, still nursing the sore elbow from Cody's welcome roll. She watched the excitement spread through the room like wildfire. Trophies didn't matter to her. Respect did. She moved quietly to the sign-up sheet posted near the locker room. Black Sharpie, fresh paper, already 4 names on the list. All men, all higher belts, all regulars. Maya didn't hesitate. She signed her name dead center on the page. Maya Brooks, white belt. Then she walked away. 10 minutes later, the news made its rounds. Some laughed. One guy said, "She's brave or delusional." Another joked, "At least the medics will get some practice." The instructor raised an eyebrow when he saw her name, but he didn't say a word, just gave a half shrug like it didn't matter. But it did. For Maya, this wasn't about beating anyone. It was about making it undeniable that she belonged here. So she trained harder, came in early, stayed late, drilled escapes until her back cramped, worked takedowns with a vengeance, studied her opponents, not just their technique, but their rhythm, their tells, their weaknesses. She knew they wouldn't expect much. That was her greatest advantage. They saw a white belt, but Maya saw openings. She stopped sparring like a student. She started strategizing like a soldier, calculated, calm, cold, no trash talk, no theatrics. She let their arrogance do the talking, while she listened to every word. Because Maya understood something most people never learn. The loudest people in the room often fall the fastest, and the ones they don't see coming, those are the ones that change everything. The bracket was set, and Maya's name was inked into it. There was no turning back, only forward, through them. Tournament day arrived like a storm, loud, chaotic, and buzzing with nervous energy. The gym was packed. Fold-out chairs lined the walls, friends and family clutching phones and water bottles. Someone set up a live stream on Instagram. Coaches shouted last-minute instructions. Belts of every color stretched, paced, or sat still in forced meditation. Maya moved like a shadow, GI crisp, belt tied tight, face unreadable. Her first match, a quick submission win. Armbar, precise, cold. Second round, triangle choke from guard, clean, surgical. People started whispering. Who is she? She's a white belt? Nah, she's sandbagging. She has to be. By the semifinals, the room had taken notice. The laughter had turned into looks. The sarcasm had gone quiet. And then, the finals bracket was posted. Maya Brooks versus Marcelo Diaz. A black belt, respected, decorated, feared. He wasn't part of the school, a guest competitor from another gym. But the moment he stepped on the mats, broad shoulders, cauliflower ears, and a permanent smirk, people leaned in. Marcelo didn't just win matches, he embarrassed people. When he heard he was facing a white belt, he laughed out loud. Seriously? He said. I signed up for competition, not charity work. He swaggered up to Maya before the match, towered over her like a lion sizing up a house cat. You sure you want this, princess? He asked. I roll hard, no refunds. Maya stared at him, quiet, unmoving. Good, she said. Neither do I. The bell rang. They bowed, and the match began. Marcelo charged like a bull, grip fighting, collar tie, trying to muscle her into guard. His style was all pressure, no patience. He expected her to panic, to flail, to crumble. She didn't. She pivoted, dropped levels, snatched his arm, and before anyone could register what happened, she was behind him. Hooks in, seatbelt grip, fast. Marcelo tried to scramble. Too late. Her arm slid under his chin like a blade finding its sheath. Rear naked choke. Tight. Tighter. Tap. 15 seconds. That was it. Silence. Then gasps. Then shouts. Someone dropped their phone. Marcelo sat up coughing, eyes wide. Confused. Maya stood, bowed, walked off. She didn't raise her hands. She didn't flex. Because she wasn't surprised. She knew what she came to do. And now, so did everyone else. For a moment there was nothing, just stunned silence. Marcelo Diaz, the black belt who hadn't tapped in over a year, was still on his knees, hands on the mat, mouth open, eyes wide. He hadn't lost. He'd been dismantled. 15 seconds. The crowd blinked like they were waking up from a dream. The instructor dropped his clipboard. Cody, the blue belt who once welcomed Maya with a hyperextended elbow, stood frozen by the water cooler, eyes locked on the mat, disbelief plastered across his face. Then slowly, like dominoes falling, clap, one student, then another, then a wave. The room erupted, not in polite applause, but in a roaring standing ovation, the kind reserved for once-in-a-lifetime moments, for something undeniable. Maya didn't smile. She didn't gloat. She untied her belt, bowed once more, and stepped off the mat with the same quiet precision she'd used to enter. In the locker room, students began to swarm her. "Where did you train before this? Are you sandbagging your belt? Who even are you?" But Maya wasn't in the mood for questions. She never needed their approval. This wasn't about proving herself to them. It was about reminding herself who she'd always been. A woman who had marched through sandstorms with 70 pounds on her back. A soldier who'd stared down enemies with live rounds in the chamber. A survivor who returned to a country that barely looked her in the eye and kept walking tall anyway. This question mark, this was just another mission, complete and clean. But not everyone stayed quiet. Marcelo caught up with her in the hallway, still rubbing his neck, a sheepish grin on his face. He extended his hand. "No excuses," he said. "That was beautiful." She shook it. "Thank you," she replied. "You were fast." He laughed. "Not fast enough." The instructor, red-faced, followed moments later. "Maya, we should talk about your rank. That was what you did." She raised a hand gently. "Let's roll again sometime, that's all." And with that, she picked up her gym bag and walked out into the late afternoon sun. No medal around her neck, no speech, just peace. Because applause fades, headlines disappear. But skill echoes. And Maya had just made the world listen. They didn't know her name when she walked in, but they remembered it when she walked out. Maya Brooks, the quiet woman in the white belt, the one they laughed at, dismissed, sparred too hard against. The one who submitted a black belt in 15 seconds and then walked away like it was nothing. Her legend didn't begin with that choke. It began with her silence. While others talked, she listened. While others flexed, she studied. While others doubted her, she honed every breath, every grip, every step. Word spread fast. Videos of the match hit social media that night. A shaky, grainy clip of a white belt moving like a storm. Comments flooded in. "Who is this? That wasn't luck. That was mastery. Black belt mentality, white belt on paper." Gyms across the country wanted to know who trained her. Coaches sent messages. Podcasts requested interviews. But Maya declined everyone. Because her victory wasn't for show. It wasn't about followers or hype. It was for the little girl she once was, watching martial arts movies on a secondhand TV, wondering if there was a place in the world for a warrior who looked like her. It was for every black woman who walked into a gym and felt invisible. It was for every veteran who returned home only to feel like their strength had no place in the civilian world. Maya became more than a competitor. She became a mirror. Proof that power doesn't always come loud. Sometimes it walks in quietly, moves with precision, and leaves nothing but truth behind. The truth? Belts can lie, but skill speaks. and Maya's spoke volumes. Weeks later, the instructor quietly promoted her to blue belt. No ceremony, no speech. Just a nod and a new belt folded gently in her locker. She tied it once, rolled twice, then hung it up, because Maya didn't need color around her waist to know who she was. She still trains, early mornings, late nights, solo drills in silence. And if you ever walk into that gym now, you'll see it too. The students spar differently with her. They speak her name with respect. And somewhere in every class, a new woman stands at the door, uncertain, nervous. Maya always greets her first, because legends don't just win, they make room for others to rise. And Maya Brooks, she made space and history, and that's the power of resilience. When the world doubts you, let your skill and heart do the talking. Maya Brooks didn't just win a match, she shattered every expectation and showed us all that true strength is quiet, unstoppable, and unforgettable. What's your next move?